Hi, Ms. Cordova. We'll just do a quick introduction for this post-conference of your observation.
Okay.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Cordova, reading and writing fifth grade teacher.
Thank you. And this is your second year, like year and a half teaching?
Yes.
Okay.
Year and a half teaching.
Okay. So thank you for joining me today. I had a really good experience going into your classroom, and it's just been an overall just good experience, like being able to conference with you, even at, mini conferences that we have sometimes in the hall regarding the students, regarding things that have been going on. And so for this particular, post observation, I'm going to focus on just that lesson. So
Okay.
what was happening in that lesson that day, for the purposes of looking to see what the next steps can be for you, okay? But of course, I want to ask the questions as clear as I can, and also for you to be able to help me understand more a little bit about the dynamics of the class and also your instruction.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me before we begin?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So your lesson that I observed was it started at 10 a.m. and it was the reading instruction part, right? The focus
Yes.
instruction part. And so going into the lesson, tell me a little bit about what do you think were your instructional strengths in that lesson in particular?
Okay, my instructional strengths in that lesson, first of all, was that I really liked the system that I used, and what was provided by the district to use
Okay.
with the students.
Okay.
So the lesson was teaching the students to recognize the persuade, which is, we use the instruction from the district, which was PIE,
Mm-hmm.
P-I-E,
Mm-hmm.
and those three letters are the initials for recognizing the author's purpose. So I was supposed to get across to the students so that they could recognize why the author is writing, what's the purpose of the author's writing, how to recognize it. So I found it really fun that what piece of pie do you think the author's is giving you or offering you? So I told them, when you're thinking about okay, what is the author trying to tell me? Okay, what piece of pie is the author gonna give me? So right away think pie, think P-I-E. Is he trying to persuade me? Is he trying to inform me? Is he trying to inform me, or is the author trying to entertain? So we went over the three, what they are, what are some common words you might see when they're trying to persuade you? What are some common words you might see when the author is
Mm-hmm.
trying to inform you?
Was that your development of the lesson, or was that part of the scope, like the actual lesson from the district?
No, that's the actual lesson from the
Okay.
district.
Okay.
The pie, they had it, I like the way it was set up for me, because
Mhm.
for me as a new teacher, the guide was, and made it easier in case I, at any moment, if I would see myself struggling, I knew exactly where in the lesson plan I could reinforce my teaching.
Uh-huh. And
So-
what about tell me more about the vocabulary, like the words. Tell me more about that. How did you internalize those before you presented that to the students?
The three initials?
The vocabulary that you
vocabulary?
said, like when it's about persuasion.
Oh, when it's for persuasion, I had to sit down, and English not being my first language, I had to translate to Spanish to translate to English.
Mm-hmm.
That's my way of thinking.
Like
So,
in your head.
Yes,
you think
in my
aloud.
head, I have to do that. So when I sit down to internalize, I make notes on my lesson plan. That's why I print them out.
Mm-hmm.
So for persuade, what words are you gonna? I had the anchor chart that the school district provided, but if I felt it was too hard for me to understand, I broke it down for the kids. Like for example, persuade. What words would the author use to persuade? What is your opinion? So once the author says, what is your opinion? What is
what are they trying to get out of the
Yes.
students, or
Okay.
what are they trying to convince
Yes.
them?
What are they trying to convince you of? That's the word.
Mhm.
Convincing.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to convince you about something, and you know that since the introduction. That's one of the things I think I told the students. Okay, so for persuasion, it's like a TV commercial. That's an example I used.
Mhm.
That it wasn't in the district, but that one came from me. So think about McDonald's. Think about Burger King. Think about other hamburger places, and the kids. That's when the kids I think told me, you know what? There's also In and Out, and they started. So
Mm-hmm.
they all have commercials, but really, which one's your favorite burger? But not before you go taste it. It's like when they're telling you when the commercial's
Mhm.
coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your part of the persuade, the commercial. So, okay, what are they offering you? Is it tempting? Is it not tempting?
Mm-hmm.
So that was the part for persuasion. For inform, what are they? When I sat down, I was thinking, okay, I have to think information. So when they're giving you information, when the author's giving you information, are there actually any questions? Are they asking you anything? Are they telling you?
Mm-hmm.
Are they telling you to compare? Are they asking you? And my thought was like, no. If they're informing you, this is me thinking. Okay, no. If they're informing you, they're not asking you any questions. They're just stating something. So that was my form of internalizing. Okay, this is just for information. There's
Mhm.
no question about it. This is just for you to know.
Good.
So that was my internalization
Mhm.
before I connected with the lesson plan.
I see. So
Yes.
what I hear you saying is that in order for you to internalize it, it takes you a little bit
Yes.
longer because you need to translate
I need to translate it.
in
Yes.
your head and possibly even on paper,
Yes.
right? It sounds like you're also looking for those cognates, those words that
Yes.
are similar to each other in both languages, so that you're also making connections, something that is relevant for the
Yes, for the
kids during your internalization process. And then in turn, like you add that little spice to the lesson.
Yes. There has to be a little bit of me in the lesson.
Sorry.
Ms. Leos, can you please come to the office when you get a chance? Thank you.
You're not Miss Lils, are you?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, we're good. Okay, so so tell me a little bit more about how you developed the specific objective of having the students understand what author's purpose was. So tell me a little bit about how did your routines like help with that or help guide you into that. Tell me about your routines and how the students respond to you guiding them through, like, for example, the pie strategy.
Okay, so the students are always, the way I structure my lessons is for every lesson I'm gonna have an anchor chart. It might be
Okay.
from a previous lesson, I might bring it back. Or it might be that if this is a new lesson in the unit, and it wasn't taught in the previous units, I'll create it. I'll create it ahead of time because I have 3 blocks.
Mm-hmm.
So some of my students already know that I already have something created. They'll see it
I
on the
see.
song,
Mhm.
on the side of the smart board. But meanwhile, on the smart board, if it's not created, I'm creating it, and they're if I write, they're writing. If whatever it is that I'm writing, they're writing it with me. For differentiation, I do have the ones from my students that have a hard time writing, or that are slow writers. I have the anchor charts already printed out for them, and they just glue it to their writing journals
Okay.
for reference, and they already know that.
Okay. So what I hear you saying is that they know that there's going to be an anchor chart,
Yes.
right? They know that if there is not an anchor chart, that they have to write and
Yes.
kind of follow. So I just a little like reflection on my end. I did see that your classroom environment, your routines, your procedures, they promote safe, positive, organized classroom environment that really and truly supports the learning of the students. I noticed that, for example, like when you ask them later on in the lesson, when you ask them about, have a conversation with your groups about if you were in an emergency, or if you've ever been in an emergency without an adult, what would you do? And I walked around the classroom briefly, and every single one of them was really hooked by that, and they were engaged in those conversations. So I could tell that those routines, right, that you have, and those expectations that you have of them makes them just like, I saw them following it. And it looks like they are like ready and eager to learn. So you basically like have them in the palm of your hand. Your classroom environment is, you have your journals stacked on the side, and they know where to go.
Yes.
They know where their particular things are. I did see that they have their journals out. For other questions that you asked throughout the lesson, I saw that some students, even though they were kind of far from you, like they were holding those conversations, regardless of the proximity.
Yes, I do have them seated, as I learned throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's maybe early in the school year, I learned to study them. Like, okay, I know who I need to have close to me, and I know who I can trust to be at a group. That you do, and you could have an independence.
What led you to those conclusions as to how to develop like possibly different routines for some students? What led you to that?
Okay, what led me to it was when as soon as they're coming in a line, right? So I would stand at the door, and I studied their character, how they were behaving in the line, and I started to see, if this one cannot behave while I'm standing in front of them in the line, these kids are gonna be the ones that are close to me. I tried it the first times, like the first few days of school, and then I started to notice, okay, these are their friends, okay, but then I started building my groups around the our results from iReady.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
So even from when we were testing in iReady, I also know that's another thing I took into account. I started to observe them. Okay, how are they going to be testing? How are they going to be in the group that they're with? How are they going to be behaving?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's important that they're not only learning when I'm walking close to them, but also that I could trust them when they're far away.
Mm-hmm.
So all those things I took into account when they're in line, when they come in and grab their journals, when they come in and get their pencils and their markers, their utensils. I observed them, and I'm like, okay, you go right here, you go over here. Okay, this is your friend. But not only that, so I had to take into account how they did in our results after testing. So that had a lot to do with how I got the room.
And I did notice that at the beginning, during our pre-conference, when I asked you about particular students that I needed to know about, you mentioned Nathaniel, right? And he's one that needs that close proximity. And I did notice that at the beginning of your focus instruction, you asked him to read the objective. Tell me a little bit more about why you chose him.
Okay. I usually use Dojo as a randomizer.
Okay.
Now I have popsicle sticks,
Okay.
so they know I'm gonna choose somebody. But also, when I see somebody talking, I'm telling them, okay, if you are talking when I'm talking, that means you're ready to answer when I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So that day I did not use the randomizer for especially for Nathaniel. He was talking, so I said, they already know. You're talking while I'm talking. I have a question. You're gonna be the person I ask. I don't know if you noticed that he went like.
And
he kind of.
I did notice that he did not shy away. Like
No,
you were asking him to do something, and he did it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew as soon as he was talking, he heard my question. He knew he was gonna be the one answering.
Yeah. So, like my daughter says sometimes, like it's almost like you're asking for that, right? Like he was talking, so it's almost like he was asking for that. So again, your strengths are definitely your, from what I observed from this lesson, right? In particular, your classroom environment, those routines, those procedures that you have established. They are in groups, and you mentioned right now that they are in groups based on not just their behavior, but also the data, right? The data that you have. As far as how they could better help each other and collaborate.
I'm very fond of. I've always thought this even while I was in school. I learned something that if we're all together and we all have the same knowledge, we're not learning from each other. So when I was moved in the university, this professor made an experiment, right? And she told us, you're not going to sit with who you're comfortable with. You're going to sit where I'm going to assign you based on the data from your last exam. I didn't like the people I was with, but I learned that, you know what? I liked being there because the things that we didn't have answers to in the other groups, we learned from each other in the new groups that the professor created. So that learning lesson stayed with me, and now I apply it with my students. And to me, it's like, oh my God, it works.
That's great. Well, I commend you for that, and it's all of your routines and procedures. All of that is evident. It's evident as soon as you walk into your classroom. So tell me a little bit more about how were you able to assess their understanding of author's purpose?
Okay, the district provided an exit ticket.
Okay.
It did have two questions. One was multiple choice, and the second one was a direct question. They were supposed to use the short SCR, race strategy.
Okay.
So you weren't there for because I ran out of time. I don't know if you recall. I ran out of time, and I told them, you know what, y'all are we're gonna work on the exit ticket the next day when you come in.
Okay.
So when they come in the next day, we went over the whole lesson like really quickly, and I gave them the exit ticket, and the majority of the students, I would say 80% of my students or 82% of my students, had the correct answer for the multiple choice, but not for the race strategy.
Okay.
Many of the students confuse. They have a misconception. I'm calling it misconception because they all had almost the same answer on the race strategy.
Okay.
and the ones that missed the multiple choice also mostly had answer C, which had nothing to do. So I was like, okay, so what is it that they're not understanding? Where's the misconception? Seeing that the repetitive of students from my 3 blocks, why did they all choose, or the majority of them choose this answer?
Okay.
So what was the misconception? They were on information and the first one, the information
Persuasion.
and persuasion. So they were confused on when the author's trying to persuade me about something and when are they giving me information. So I did go back to the hamburger thing, and we did talk about it a little bit. And still, the ones that still didn't understand, I took them to kidney table the following day, and I worked with them.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about how I guess like the delivery of the lesson. Is there anything that you would have done differently to ensure that the not just the progress monitoring from the district, right? That exit ticket was covered during that time, but also so that you can do other types of check-ins with them. Is there anything that you would have done differently about regarding your delivery, like how you delivered the lesson, perhaps? I mean, how much time you took on certain things? Would you do anything different to ensure you would go through the full cycle?
Okay, I did use books, and I assigned a book to each table.
Okay.
After I gave the lesson. I have 5 groups in the class, so each group had 1 book. They were supposed to identify if it was a persuasive writing, if it was an informational writing, if it was or if it was for entertainment.
Yes.
So I think I limited them to only that when I give them the book. I feel I did. Because
why? Why do you think you limited them?
I feel I limited them because I could have given them each a book of each of the pie.
Okay.
I could have given them the 3 slices.
Okay.
Each group I could have given, because I have enough books to do so.
Okay.
That way they could have identified each of the books.
So even if you would have given them a different book, everyone a different book, how would you know that they really understood what they needed to explain to you?
I think I would still do the walking around, and I think I would ask them individually. Since it's a very short, I think it's easy for them to identify. You know what? Once they have the books in front of them.
Okay.
I also worked on a warm up. The following morning, and I had 3 writings. So the way I did it is.
But let's go back to that particular lesson. So take that information that you did the next morning for the warm up, right? Would you have embedded something like that into that particular lesson?
I should have.
Okay.
I should have, yes.
So tell me why.
I should have. I think I should have used the warm up I used the following day.
Okay.
On the day before.
Okay.
Because I
for
think
what section of your lesson? Like for what part of your lesson? Like when you were doing the pie, or to introduce it, or as a formative assessment?
I think as a formative assessment.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I think I would have done that instead of just waiting for the exit ticket.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
How do you think adding another mini monitoring assessment strategy, how do you think, or do you think that would have helped the outcome of the next day's exit ticket?
I think it would have.
Okay.
I think I would have gotten a better result. I would have seen m- more more students understanding more of their se llama? I would have seen them less. I would have seen less confusion.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I'm thinking right now that if I would have implemented, like last year I had, but last year I was in the dual language program, so many of my things were in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
So last year, what I did, I created a pamphlet in rings,
Mm-hmm.
and I had the different genres, but also I had another
Okay.
one that the kids always carried with them,
Okay.
or that they had in their desk. So I think that if I would have created something like that for them, um, and have them look over it, I
Mm-hmm.
think that would have helped also with the results.
Okay. Okay. So I hear you saying that if you would have changed something, you would have added another form of
Yes.
like a monitoring of their understanding, so that the outcome was a little bit more
A little-
clear, right?
yes.
So perhaps you would have caught the misunderstandings. Is there anything else that you would have liked to do during that lesson to kind of catch those misunderstandings while like they were happening? Do you think, or another question can be, do you think you gave them opportunities to catch their misunderstandings?
I didn't give them opportunities. I think I lead the class too much instead of, I do give them group time, but I think I have to get into the habit of giving them a little bit more time,
Okay.
of self group time, like where they work together,
Mhm.
and I'm walking around and actually monitoring instead of me just like
Okay.
preaching instead of just telling them.
Okay. I did notice that when you gave them the books that were like different, they were really different genres also,
Mhm.
right? And you asked them like to look at the evidence that the book had to determine what the author was trying to persuade them, whether it was persuade, inform, or entertain. I did notice that it was more of an oral communication
Mhm.
that you had them do, and I don't think there was anything like
Yes.
written.
Yes.
So tell me about that.
Right there, that's where when I was at home, I was like, oh my god, what did I do? So I like, okay, so I think I'm a person that I think that the brain's connected to the pen. So like I did not have whiteboards for them. I did not have a notebook where they could write. I did not have a chart provided for them, and because it was the first lesson, I was sitting down. I was thinking I should have at least had a chart with the persuasive, the three pieces,
Mhm.
and then at least for them to check off. Okay, what do I think that this book is telling me? What do I think that the text is telling me? And just like kind of check it off, and that would have been a way better assessment than just having them answer
Okay.
by group.
Okay. And in addition to them just having it check off, what else would you have asked
Oh.
them to write?
I would have asked them to give me like half the box where they check it off, and then give me an example of
An
why.
example. Great. See, and it's not about and this is just me speaking, right? It's not about like, oh, I should have done this, like I'm gonna ruin them for the rest of their life. Like, no, it's
No.
about your growth.
Yes.
And I'm glad to hear that like you came to your own conclusions even after that lesson,
Yes.
right? And that like that's what it's all about, right? It's about kind of like me helping, just in the sense of really being the mediator between you and yourself and your thinking, right? Because you're very good, at reflecting, and it seems from what you're telling me right now that you would have a chart, that they would check it off, that they would write evidence, that perhaps you should have had an anchor chart ready, or whiteboards, or something written down, an example, right? So it sounds like you have the knowledge of how your delivery could have been a little bit different. Now, tell me a little bit more about um, having those examples. Um, were there any examples provided for the students at any point of the lesson?
Mm, the only examples I had were the ones on the I was creating on the Anchor Shark. Those were the only examples I
Okay.
had. Yes.
Okay.
So I feel that I could have had more. And then I stood in front of them and I picked up a book and asked in a unison, and showed them one of the
Yes, you
one
did.
of the books, and I asked them in a unison way, okay, is the author going to persuade me? Is he going to what is he? So I said each of the words. So then the kids would identify if it was persuasive, especially with Cat in the Hat. So I don't remember if it was in this block that I read part of the
No,
part
it
of
wasn't.
it.
No, it wasn't.
So
this one.
that's, I guess I learned from my first class, and then as I was moving on,
Got it.
my last class did, compared to the first class,
Uh-huh.
they did a whole lot better. But because I took the time to read, and when they heard me reading,
Uh-huh.
when they heard the reading, there was a lot of students that made a connection. They were like, "Oh no, that's entertaining. It's too funny. It was a cat in the hat."
Mm-hmm.
Then I took one of the science nature books that has the maps, and so I opened it and I said, "Hey, I want to go to, I don't remember if it was Norway, somewhere, some cold place." And one of the kids yelled out, "That's an informational book. It's telling you of places you could visit."
Mm-hmm.
So they made a connection with that. And I'm like, "Oh my God, if I would have done this with my other group." So
Mm-hmm.
I'm growing along, and I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah, modifying and adjusting.
Yes.
Yeah, so the books that you had in your class that day that you had them share out was Discovering Ancient Civilizations, a book on Nelson Mandela, The Adventures of Beaky, and there was a book on like geography. It had deserts,
Yes.
oceans, and like pictures of like cities, like there's a bay. So those were different. I really enjoyed the part where you gave them an example of what a student wrote, right? About the persuasion. Now to add to that, I know you read that, right? You read that out loud, but how could you have used that letter that the student wrote to so a student read a letter trying to persuade the school principal to let them use cell phones on a field trip. You had just gone on a field trip
Yes.
the day prior. So tell me, how could you have used that letter to target that instruction, to target that author's purpose, and to be able to model for them what it looks like to provide evidence?
Okay, first of all, I just read it to them. So
Uh-huh.
I think if I would have had my Elmo on, allowed them to see it,
Oh,
allowed
okay.
them to have, you know what, this is actually kids writing, first of all. So it's,
Authentic.
I think it's authentic. So I would have had them analyze it, like that's why I would have it up on the Elmo. Okay, analyze it. What are the words the student is using? Okay, how do you know it's persuasive? So I would have them internalize the letter and think, hey, and well, I also asked them a question: would you like to use a cell phone? So what would be your argument?
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the big words. I just remembered right now. That was one of the big words. So when that letter came up, you know what? Persuading, you have to have an argument to persuade. Because if you do not have an argument, how are you going to persuade somebody? So that was one of the big words. I thought that letter helped me because to show the students and to make the connection. You know what is persuasion? Well, I have to have an argument. If you don't have an argument of how good and I went back to the hamburgers of how good of the hamburger is it. So that commercial has to have an argument. So right away, when you're thinking about a persuasion, think about an argument. It's not fighting. They're just trying to let you know, hey, this is the best. Why is it the best? Why do you argue it's the best? Why do you argue you want to use a cell phone? So I think that if I would have given them that opportunity, even to write something, hey, what do you want to persuade someone about? Okay, the student did it for the principal. What would you want to persuade anybody about? I think that would have been a good connection for the persuasion part.
So I hear you saying that making those connections and having them like write those arguments and
or even
being more in
talking to
depth,
each other,
using the
yeah,
document camera, using the document camera to really model like what it looks like, right? Because it wasn't until close to 11, right? So we started at 10:10, and it wasn't until close to 11 that you gave the students 8 minutes to read the article, right? And so after those 8 minutes, giving them some modeling prior to that would be number one suggestion, right?
Yes.
But I think you came to so before I give you, I'm gonna do this a little bit out of order.
Okay.
Before I give you like my like recommendations or suggestions for next steps, tell me what are like 2 main things that you would do next time. Like if you were redoing this lesson, 2 main things that you would modify to ensure that your delivery of the instruction was spot on and that it didn't go on to the next day.
Okay. I take too long talking. That's one of them. So
Okay.
I think that I need to talk a little bit less and give the students the opportunity for them to be the ones talking.
Okay.
I think I need to have more hands-on, like connect their thoughts on paper
Okay.
or even whiteboards. Have I'm thinking right now as I talk, if I would provide things that they already know, let's say like stories they already know, have them dismantle the story or see the book covers or the way we did it with the way I did it with the other books, but have something that is in their interest and have them observe it, look at it. Okay, are they trying to persuade me? Are they trying to inform me? Something that calls their attention. That way they'll be more focused. ¿Qué más? I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, you gave me way more than 2, and I asked for 2, so that's great. So I agree with you on definitely the modeling, and being very purposeful with the time that you have, being able to maybe project on the smart board, right? So giving them examples of when I have this, article or this book. These are the things that I'm looking for when we're talking about author's purpose. So I think having those opportunities for them also can help you in your delivery by, let's say you mentioned whiteboards, right, where they can like make notes.
I also think that adding keywords.
Okay.
Keywords, like having it not to where they have to write them, but having them a visual for them. Okay. Say, since we're talking about those 3 things from the pie, okay, have them for them right there at the table or somewhere, not just have them on the whiteboard and then taking them off, or you know what, I have the anchor chart and now it's off. I need to have the keywords so that they could stay with them. They could take it with them.
I think that when you have those whiteboards or have them write, I think you would be killing two birds with one stone, because I noticed during your lesson you were going one table at a time, and yes, you were giving them your undivided attention, but it could mean that the other students know that it's not their turn, so they may not be focused on exactly what they need to be. And if you were to do whiteboard, right, and model what that would look like, all you have to do is just walk around the room, right? That's all you have to do. You can play games where you put it face down, you know, count to three, okay, show me your answer. You don't have evidence, okay, so then you don't get to come pick your book for today, or something, you know, something to get them motivated. But it would also release you from having to hear every single student's response.
Yes. I think that takes a lot of my time.
Okay, yeah. So that way you have whiteboards, you're walking around the class, and you can see. You can see who's writing, you can see who's not. And then you could also kind of, you're very observant, how you mentioned, just getting them in line, knowing how they come into class. Having them, look at their expressions, are they confused? Then you would be taking the time to go asking them those scaffolding questions.
Okay.
Rather than taking a lot of your time to ask one group at a time.
Yes.
And also you kind of catch them off guard, right? Because, routines is something that is really, your strength. But now we need to take those routines and push it a little bit further by now you're going to have, you can have modeling routines, right?
Yes.
I do this at the rigor of the TEK, and now my expectation is that you're going to, duplicate this with your group. And that is an instant way of monitoring the students' understanding.
Okay.
And you don't necessarily have to wait till the exit ticket, and you can also use that time to clarify the misconceptions.
That's going to be my question. Is that the moment that once I see
exactly
run through?
That is a very purposeful moment where you can clear up those misconceptions. And those moments are the ones where you can also bring in the connections that you're helping them make to their real world. That you're really good about throwing those things in there that makes sense to them, right? The other thing is you mentioned something, and it was I think it's really important, and I don't think you understand how important and powerful this can be. As something that you can add, the thinking aloud, thinking through the process. So you mentioned how you do this on your own when you're internalizing the lesson. I think that I know that because of the district guidelines, you have to read the objectives, right? You have to read the language objective and the focus. But if you add this little component into as you're modeling for them, thinking out loud and showing them that, hey, I'm learning things also, right? Yes. It was a change for you going from dual to monolingual, but the way that you process information and explaining to them well, first I thought about this, and then that led me to think about this. So even drawing a graphic organizer that helps them understand how you got from point A to point B and to point C, that can be really powerful. And you have that already because you do it on your own. But now I would challenge you to push that into your lesson as to how much more powerful and empowering can it be for your students to know, hey, she's a teacher, but she has to scaffold and differentiate for herself, right? So those are my two takeaways for you. And let me see here. I think we're almost out of time. That went by fast.
It did.
That went by fast. So you named the things that you would do, and And I hope to see these things. I'm sorry. I hope to see these things soon in your class. And I'm excited to watch you grow as a teacher.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.